Welcome to the Advance Your Art podcast, where we talk about the journey from artist to entrepreneur and everything in between. You've worked hard to hone your craft. Now take it to the next level with tips, techniques, strategies, and routines used by successful artists to grow their businesses and careers. Now, let's get started and have some fun with your host, Yuri Cataldo.
Good evening, Peter. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now that we have solved our technical difficulties, I am doing much better.
I know. Isn't technology awesome?
Man, I tell you what, Skype just really it frosts my cookies sometimes because it's like it asks you to upgrade and then it can't fix its own bug problems. Isn't Skype owned by Microsoft? Do you think they could figure them? Why can't they figure their own software out? Like, seriously.
Sometimes it's scary.
It is. But that's all right. Solutions have been found, and we're all good. So I'd like to start off by asking you about marathons. So you have run a couple of them. Why? I guess that's the best question to ask. What got you into running for long distances?
So I started running in high school, and I would just kind of casually do it. I was on the track team, and I never really tried as hard as I could have. I never really applied myself, and then I just quit. And then years later, I was involved with the Tug McGraw Foundation, which raises money for brain tumor research, and they started a team, and they started doing races for having teams for different races to raise money. And there was a woman at the time who was suffering from a brain tumor, and she convinced me that I could run a marathon. And I said, that's crazy. I've never ran more than 3 miles. But that's pretty much how I went from running casually 2 or 3 miles to getting a couple of marathons in.
Oh, wow. And which marathons did you run in?
I ran in Chicago in 2010, and then I ran in Boston in 2015. But I am in no way a fast runner. I just have that crazy endurance mind where I just have to run. I have to push it.
Yeah.
So
that sounds awesome, though. Chicago Marathon and Boston Marathon. That's awesome. So did you qualify officially for Boston Marathon, or was there another way that you? Or
No. At the time, my wife was working at Mass General, so I did another charity team because, like I said, I am not in any way near close to being able to qualify. But I thought living in Boston and I love Boston. And I was like, you know what, if I'm going to do another one, it's going to have to be Boston, and it's going to have to be through a charity team because there's no way I'm going to ever be that fast. So, it was an awesome experience, but I don't know if I'll ever run another one again, but I probably will because I just have that crazy, that crazy mind to need to go extreme.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. So I'm not particularly a runner, but if I were to do one, I totally would do Boston just because I've been by the Boston Marathon for the last couple of years, and it's just an awesome experience.
Oh yeah, it's a party. We had a ton of support the whole way, so. That keeps you going when you're going up Heartbreak Hill, because that's when you realize, oh, what did I do? Oh, I'm stuck on this course, and I'm gonna have to finish if I want to ever go home, type of thing.
Right, exactly. All right, so let's transition a little bit and start from the beginning. So what made you want to go to school for finance and accounting? Is that correct?
Yeah. So this is another crazy story. So this all went back to high school as well. So the same guidance counselor who told me that I was going to join the track team also, when my schedule came out, I had chemistry 2 and I had physics, and I hate science. And I said, don't, please. I can't do 2 science classes. And he said, well, the only other class available is accounting, but that's for kids that don't go to college. That's an honest story. And I was like,
Wow.
Okay, well, listen, I'm a good student. I'm gonna sit in the back and I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. But I can't take physics. So, long story short, I believe it or not, it sounds ridiculous, but I fell in love with accounting. I switched. I was gonna be a history high school teacher, and I switched my major to accounting after taking that class. And it always just clicked, and so that's how I ended up in the accounting world.
Oh, that's cool. So what did you do then after you first graduated from college? Like, what were your first couple of jobs?
Yeah. So I worked at a small firm in Rhode Island, and I did auditing and tax, and I hated auditing, but it was a small enough firm where they just said, listen, you're going to have to do both. But that was good because it showed me. So right out of school, it was a shell-shocking experience of, enjoying college and then the everyday life of going into an accounting firm and having to do that whole thing. Mm-hmm. I got the opportunity to realize that I didn't want to do auditing at all. So that's when I moved to Boston to get my master's in tax, and then I worked at different firms up there and just became a tax expert.
Okay, sure. So when was it that you decided to branch out on your own and start your own firm?
I knew I always wanted to. I started doing it at night in 2012, and then 2 years ago I completely stopped consulting. I knew I couldn't work for anyone at all anymore. So I was like, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to own my own business. I said the only way I'm gonna grow and become successful is if I just jump off the cliff and take a chance.
Yeah, that's great. So while you're making that decision to jump off the cliff, were there books that you were reading or mentors you had that made that transition a little more smooth, or you just go for it?
No. I mean, I'm a accountant deep down inside, so I always had the budgets and the spreadsheets, and I was like, I can't give up the salary. But I would always read books like Traction is a good book that I like to read. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of like one of those things that it was just like it got to the point where I knew it was time, and it was like, you're just and the funny thing is I was working at the time for a guy who was in his 70s, a traditional accountant who is never going to retire but says he always will, type of thing. And I said, I can't keep going on like this. I knew I wanted to build a business a different way, and the only way I was going to do it was to to take the plunge and actually do that. So
yeah.
I would say the biggest mentor I ever had was the guy who kind of not lied to me, but the guy who couldn't ever retire. I mm-hmm. looked at him and was like, you know what, I don't want to be like this. So if I don't do something about it now, then nothing's ever going to change.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. So you branch out and started doing your own work. What made you want to start working with, I would say, creative clients?
So that gentleman that I just spoke about, actually, he had a relationship with a bookkeeper who had just so happened to refer him to a lot of interior designers, and then he had other design clients. So when I was working there, I just kind of gained more experience, and I found that they needed help throughout the year versus just like other clients that needed like just their tax return done, mm-hmm. let's say. And so when I went out on my own, a lot of those types of clients stayed with me. And then I had been doing it for, I had been in the industry for like 13 years at that point. And I said, I'm just bored with just another tax return. I need a niche. I need something to be able to get more excited. So I actually had a different mentor who said, look at your list of clients. Don't worry about what they do. Just write the ones that you get along with the most and who you think require, like appreciate the most value that you can give them. And so I made a list of 10 clients and 7 were in the design field. And I said, well, there it is. It's right there on the piece of paper. So I just went for it, and here we are today. So
yeah. All right, awesome. Well, so in the years you've been working with designers and creatives, what are some of the most common mistakes you see them make, either in their taxes or, I'm not sure, do you also work with their finances as well, or just taxes?
No, we do it all. So we help with accounting, taxes, and even like part-time CFO and even like sometimes like mentoring, business coaching type of thing, just like with the financial decisions.
Oh, okay.
I would say the biggest mistake I see usually is a creative person who wants to start a business but feels like they're too small, so they don't invest in an expert and they just kind of make decisions on their own because they're worried about the cost of working with someone like that. Fortunately, those decisions that are made, if they do make those decisions, they can be changed. But I would say the biggest thing I see is just more creative clients have that creative side of the brain that they're strong at, and they don't really, a lot of them don't really like finances, but instead of getting the help they need, they're either too afraid to ask because they might feel stupid asking it, or they feel like they can do it themselves for a little while without getting help. So.
Oh, sure. So I was on your site, and I noticed that you have a book that you wrote. What made you want to write this book, 5 Easy Ways to Grow Your Design Business?
Yeah, so in all the experiences that I had of people, different clients, and what they go through from, starting out maybe working at night and having a different job, to working on their own but being alone, to building a team, the struggles that they went through, I said, you know what, like, let's get a ebook out there where people can read it, and I think that the topics that are included are something that all business owners have to deal with.
Sure.
And we just figured let's get it out there so that people can read it and get some pointers, hopefully before they've made some big decisions, so that in the future, as they're growing, they have more information that they can use.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was looking on this, and it's fantastic advice on taking control of your workday and learning how to pay yourself first. So let's just like on the workday part, like, since you're an accountant and look at things more, I guess, through numbers, how do you structure your own day, and how do you encourage your clients to structure their day?
Yeah, I am not gonna tell you that I am a perfect business owner that structures my day perfectly.
Yeah.
But what I try to do, and what I try to encourage my clients to do, is block off time, whether it's a couple of hours, a half a day, a full day in a week, to focus on growing your business versus administrative tasks versus, the finances and that kind of stuff. And even though sometimes, you've got fire drills that you have to deal with, at least for me anyway, if Tuesdays are strategy days, so for me, Tuesday mornings, I try to do strategy time where I'm just focusing on how to grow my business. I think about marketing and that kind of stuff. Even if I'm supposed to do it for 4 hours and it ends up being 2 hours, at least I can say that I get into work on Tuesday. I look at my calendar, or I wake up and I look at my calendar, and I know that Tuesday mornings I'm going to try to spend as much time on that as possible. And then you get into a habit of doing that, and then hopefully it comes easy. It's a consistent thing, and you're hitting all those touch points that you need to do as a business owner to keep a successful business going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So also on your list it says insider secrets that save designers thousands of dollars in payments to Uncle Sam. So I don't, I want our listeners